welcome back to the Authentic Human Podcast. And Kyle Main-Cheese is back. Yay!
I'm back.
Kyle and I, if you haven't heard, we've had some amazing conversations in the past on the podcast. And I got an email from Kyle a few days ago, and he was asking them more big questions. And, it was really great actually to hear from you again.
Yeah,
You know, when you go in and you're connecting with someone's soul, it's so intimate and it's so personal, right? And it's just this amazing feeling when, you reached back out and you
yeah,
said, things that I had shared with you were accurate and they unfolded in the way that they said it was going to. And, for
yeah,
me, that's huge because I don't even remember what I say, right? Like,
yeah,
because I have to turn my brain off. So just hearing that, I was like, yes, that's awesome, right? So share
yeah.
with me a little bit about what had you reaching out again.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting. It's been like a very challenging period for me, just like maybe the last month, I would say like around a month. Yeah. And it was funny because that was one of the things that I was like that you kind of mentioned last time we spoke. And it was funny when we spoke, it was at a time when everything was just feeling very much like it was coming together, where it was like it's all going in the right direction and it was all just feeling so aligned and all of that. And then you said like it feels like you're gonna have another like very dark night of the soul kind of period where things are gonna be very intense. And at the time I was like, I mean, I trusted it, but I was like, but everything feels so right. And then that's what it's been feeling like. And I was like, wow, it's so right what you said. And I
That's
was
awesome.
I was I was feeling like I wanted some, yeah, it's kind of been building up where I was like, I really wanted some guidance or just somebody to kind of engage with or something like that. And I was kind of running through some people that have been helpful for me on my path. And I kind of forgotten about you. And then I'd forgotten about like reaching
Yes.
out or something like that. And then when you and Matt told me that you guys had spoken, and then it was so funny for me that like the synchronicities of that is like the day I sent you an email, it was literally just before you kind of released it on YouTube. And then
It's
and then I
amazing,
what
right?
it was incredible. Like I was like obviously feeling something because I was like that was what was primarily on my mind was like, yeah, Michelle and Matt. And then I sent you an email about it, and then literally 5 minutes later, boom, it was on YouTube. And then I was watching that, and that was where I was feeling so much energetically when you guys were talking, and I was just like yeah, I was feeling a lot, and I was like, okay, I really wanted to talk with you again.
Oh, thank you. I love that. And I love that you saw the synchronicity, you paid attention to it. There's a
Yeah,
lot of people who are like, "Oh yeah, that's really cool." And then they
yeah,
go on and do something else, right? And you had
yeah,
put together, like this is intense and I'd love some guidance. And then it's being able to follow that train, right? And trust that
yeah,
that's the path. So,
yeah,
what's been going on in your world?
yeah, yeah. That's a good question. So I guess it's been a lot around like relationship for me. And it's funny because that's kind of also what you said to me the last time we spoke. I was talking a lot about all the teachers that had been so helpful for me in the past. And then you were saying you're entering a phase now where it's much less about like these big teachers or whatever. It's more about your interaction and engagement with just everyday people in your life that's really going to teach you a lot and that's going to continue to open you up.
Yeah.
And that was another thing which I've just been noticing so clearly in my life. It's just like these really deep authentic conversations with just like a friend of a friend or something that you would have no like spiritual context for it, but it's just like it's been happening a lot. and then
I
and
love
then yeah,
that. I love
yeah,
that. It's
I,
fantastic, right?
yeah,
Especially when you can see that that's the synchronicity of how we were created. Like we're meant to
yeah,
learn like that all the time, right? But
yeah,
we forget how to pick up on those nuances and pay attention.
yeah,
And so we overlook it and we think it has to be some big dramatic teacher, master, mentor in that
yeah,
capacity, right? We forget that the universe is showing us all the time. So
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's great. And I think what helped me to really open up more was the conversations that we'd had in the past, where I think also the stuff we'd spoken about, like, I think one of our conversations was around holding space for others. And I remember something you said, which was so helpful, was that, like, every soul is on its own path, it's on its own purpose. And that was so helpful for me then when it just seems like a random, like, average conversation, but it's like this person, maybe they don't look like they're on any spiritual path at all, but they're on their soul's path, and that was really helpful for me to just be open to wherever the conversation was going, or like that there was obviously some sort of transmission going on between me and this person, and for whatever reason. Yeah.
And the magic, Kyle, is that you're seeing that human as a sovereign soul.
Yeah.
That's the gift you give when you
Yeah.
recognize that. Like, do you feel the depth of that? Like,
Yeah.
it's magnificent. Magnificent, right? It's recognition that this isn't just my journey. They're on a journey too.
Mm.
I don't need to know their journey, but I can honor it by just
Yeah. Yeah.
paying attention, right? Oh my gosh, I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you for gifting that to humans, right? Like that's
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
amazing gift. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, that was so much from what we spoke about. So then I think the biggest theme in my life that's been playing out recently was like around like love and like really romantic connection. And it's interesting because it's something that's quite, in a way, new in my life because it hasn't been there for so long.
Yep,
So um basically, to just go back a little bit, it was like the last time I had any sort of romantic interaction with somebody was like 3 years ago, before I kind of like went down this crazy healing journey. And then it was a lot about solitude and going into myself and kind of letting go of all of these like needs from the
yep,
world and that kind of stuff. But then it was really realizing, like, towards the end of last year, beginning of this year, that this was something that I really wanted to explore, was like, and allowing myself to acknowledge that as well, because I think for a while I hadn't been authentic about that, where it was like I wanted that, but there was like competing agendas in me, or maybe there was probably fear as well. There was a fear of really
yep,
opening myself up. So yeah, for the first time I met somebody, um when was it? It was like May, I think. And it was all these synchronicities playing out, where it was like the first time I met this person, it was just online. And I was like, wow, I really felt some like kind of connection there. And it was at this time when in general I was really looking to meet somebody that I was attracted to. And it it felt like, if somehow, because she was on the other side of the world when we connected online, and I was like, if somehow we were to be able to connect, it would be, yeah, something just felt right. And then the next thing, she kind of she got in contact with me and said, "Oh, I'm coming to South Africa to like visit your country. Like, do you want to meet up?" And then again, it was just like this. It had this real, yeah, like synchronicity feeling to it. And then we met in person, and there was just this familiarity and this depth, like that. We felt like we were just picking up somewhere, and yeah, this like strong, yeah, strong connection. And then
yep,
yeah, then from there it was just that was great. It was like a crazy, I don't know, that's like since May that became like the, I guess, biggest thing happening in my life, was this
yep.
kind of this relationship, whatever, interaction. And
Yeah,
yeah, and what was great for me is it was opening me up in so many ways. It was like the first time I was really getting to explore this, really opening myself up to somebody else, this like vulnerability. Um, and at the same time, there was a lot, I could see a lot of things like wounds or things that were being brought up that wouldn't, this is why this had to happen, that it wouldn't have been brought up with me just being on my own. It
right.
was like seeing all these, yeah, it was like an interesting question you asked me on the email about, like, was it whether it was desire or like a strong pull. And I think it was seeing a bit of both, where it was seeing like, where there was something authentic and genuine there, but where was my mind maybe like, um, I don't know, getting sucked too much out of myself and into this idea of something. and yeah, and then from
There's a lot of
you know,
rabbit holes the brain can go down, and
right,
right, and I mean, it picks. Sometimes it picks one or two, sometimes it picks 10, and you're like, okay, let's do it, because and it's a
yeah,
rush, right? It's
yeah.
literally a rush of energy and emotions, and they're feeding off of each other. So it's being able to navigate. So that's lovely. And then what happened from there?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, we kind of we got really like intimate, and that was like incredible to explore because I hadn't explored that with somebody for so long. And then she went back to the other side of the world, and it was yeah, that was challenging. And then I think it was realizing that we wanted uh I don't know, maybe we were in different places. Like I was feeling this really a lot in a sense, and I was trying to not hide that. That was one of the biggest things that I felt initially with this relationship. That was like it felt good in the sense that I would have normally been, afraid of getting hurt or something like that. Whereas now I was just allowed myself to openly express how I felt. But um, I guess it was the dynamic of that we're in maybe different places in our journey. So like maybe I think that was a little bit scary for her. And yeah, to maybe jump ahead a little, but then it was like this constant like pushing and pulling of or like the dynamic of it felt like we would get really close and then she would kind of pull away and then that would be really painful from my side where it would be like but each time it felt like it was taking me deeper into something that I needed to feel, or it was like um it felt like we were learning things from each other in that
Oh,
sense. And then
100%. Yep.
yeah, yeah. Like opening each other up and yeah,
Well, here's the thing. I love the way that you just said that too, like opening each other up, because
yeah,
what we forget is our sacred journey, our journey of awakening is so personal.
yeah.
And we only can awaken in someone else what they're ready to have awakened,
Right, right, yeah,
right? And so there's so many parts to this. So the first dynamic that we want to go, I'm going to go back to the beginning, and just share there's so much. So the more awakened that we become, right? The more we see, the more we feel,
yeah.
and the more we hear energetically, right? Our
Mm,
senses are heightened to the energy, not just having a physical
mm,
relationship. And it's challenging. It's
mm,
challenging to balance the energetic with the physical when both people are not at the same
mm.
energetic level of awareness. There's
Yeah, yeah,
there's it has nothing to do with judgment. It has everything
yeah,
to do
yeah,
with, you know, and I can tell you this was the last um I remember trying to date. This was maybe 8 or 9 years into my journey, and and what I realized is I was having a relationship with this person's soul, and this person
yeah,
wasn't aware of what was going on.
yeah,
And, for me, I was deep in because I was
yeah,
giving myself all the way.
yeah,
And
yeah,
this
yeah.
person, he was like, what? Like,
But I remember you actually telling me that like in our last conversation, and this was one of the like things that was popping into my mind. I was like, it feels. I remember you saying that. I was like, it feels quite similar in that
yeah,
sense of it. Like I remember you saying a relationship on the soul, but maybe not both people are feeling it that way, and that's what it felt to me. It was like there's this deep connection, but
yeah.
maybe I'm feeling it, and yeah, yeah, it's like it's weird, yeah,
It's about balance. And it's
yeah,
being able to balance where you are energetically and with where they are energetically and where you are
yeah,
physically with where they are physically.
yeah,
Because the romantic relationships that we are having, for the most part, are based in the physical aspects of self. And
yeah,
right. And so what they're showing me is, you came in with, and the way they're being very specific with words. So each came in with a different purpose. And
Yeah.
the fact that you each had purposes was already a testament to the fact that this was a learning experience for both of you.
Okay.
Okay. So you're not missing out on anything. That's what they want to say now. You're not missing out on anything because so so it's not meant to be a lifeline, lifelong because and that's what they mean by not missing out on anything. It's
Okay.
recognition, it's deep soul recognition. And I know that that also brings up some sadness because it's,
Mm, mm,
it's right. It's this part of you that's like, oh, I finally found my person who gets
yeah.
me, who understands me. Um, and the thing is too, Kyle, what they're showing me, right? Like in your significant longer relationship, it was an on again, off again, on again, off again. And that's that's the dynamic you're learning to overcome.
Mm,
That's why this person came back in the way that she did, because that's not a deep soul connection, right? When someone continues to pull back,
mm,
right? And
yeah.
and that's there, like she's got some trauma, right? That she's not ready to deal with, and that's okay. She doesn't need to be
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah.
She's going to be ready. The thing is you were so excited about her, you wanted to
Mm,
help her heal those things, help her deal with them. And
yeah.
so that's what felt like it was a lot for her to take in because
Mm,
your encouragement was was taken as pushing her where she wasn't ready to go yet.
mm, mm,
So this is why it's, it's really cool. And I love you for coming on and having the courage to have this conversation you know, in front of the world, because at the end
yeah.
of the day, this is the most intimate part of your life right now. And so
Yeah.
I want to honor that. And I also, you know, you're in a position like your heart is meant to help others grow and
Yeah.
expand. It is what you are naturally attracted to.
Mm,
And what the universe is showing you is where the boundaries need to go
yeah. Yeah.
in the bigger picture. So, this is like the bigger picture of why this needed to come in because, you know, you're young, you're healthy, you're a good-looking man, and people want that's what women want for their mates,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you're learning how to channel your energy into a way that is kind, but is also open and holding space for them,
Mm,
pure and
mm,
free of that sexual intimacy that gets misrepresented.
mm,
Okay. It's not that you were doing it before, but they're showing you what's coming. And as you grow and as your reach and your impact expands, you have to understand how the nuances, like even one
mm,
little bit of, oh, she's beautiful in that way of looking at a woman as the physical
mm,
stereotype of a woman, your
mm,
energy shifts and changes, and it will
mm.
feed into their fears,
Okay.
which means that they won't hear what you're going to say. They won't hear your wisdom that comes from your heart. So it's like it's like they're showing me, Jesus is showing me, it's like they're picked you up and they dipped you into the pool of purity so that you can hold space, right? It's resurrecting that aspect of yourself and your true self so that you can walk with a higher level of integrity in alignment with purity. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people on the planet who want to help, but they want to help from a place of their own trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Makes sense. And they
Yeah.
haven't healed all the aspects yet. And so what you're learning is how deep connection and relationship was always meant to be. So you're learning how to
Mm,
embody it so that when those humans are coming to you with that struggle, you're going to be
Mm.
able to help them because you've already transcended it yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay?
yeah. That makes, yeah, like a lot. Yeah, it all feels yeah, that's if I reflect back on all of this, and if I look at like if it wasn't meant to work out in the long run, there was so much uh that it pulled out of me that, like you said, it was maybe all of these things because it was the first kind of intimate relationship with somebody in so long, that it was like I spoke with Matt about it as well, and he was like, it's almost like the sobering process as well, whereas at first you're kind of like this drunkenness almost, where yeah, you're not doing maybe what's the most authentic thing for both of you to kind of go deeper, because there's all these other things that need to come out
Yeah.
first from like past relationships or wounds, and a lot came out of it. Like that was what was in, but that was why this was so powerful as well, where it was like um the more that I allowed myself to truly honor how I was feeling, and like really being genuine about that. Like there was periods where I was terrified of saying like I really like love you, and then I said that, and then almost immediately afterwards I just burst into tears, because I think it was like that was what was, it almost felt to
Yep.
me like that's what was underneath pushing me almost into the other person. It was like, and then it was just like grief underneath, and then it felt like something like almost died, and it was um yeah, so I can totally, everything you said just feels like a confirmation of what that was about. Yeah.
And it's the sadness of like it's grief is real. And the reality is we don't know when it's going to sneak up on us. And your greatest fear is someone isn't going to love me, for who I am.
Yeah.
And so sharing that you love them
Yeah.
and letting that out, right? That grief is it's your you're surrendering to the sadness that you've carried your whole life because this is
Mhm.
right. This is like 2 years old, 3 years old. Like, are they going to ever love me for me all the way through?
Mhm.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
it has, yes. So the only aspect of it that related to an intimate relationship was this is the person I'm choosing, right? Like we don't choose our parents. We do from as a soul perspective,
Yeah.
but in our brains growing up, we don't understand that we've chosen them, right? And
Yeah.
so we think, why don't you love me? You decided to have me, to have a child, and
Mhm.
I'm still not enough for you. So when you
Mhm.
come to this place where now you're choosing the person you're going to spend time with, and ultimately, the seeking is with the intention to be with that person for all the time.
Yeah.
For,
Yeah.
as my son would say, for all the days. Right? Yes. And, you
Yeah.
know, that's it's recognition of that grief. And that's really, in that moment, it's that pinnacle moment of surrender to, the way they're showing me is to the higher self and the recognition that, yep, I am on the path. And yes, I do. I do want to love
Mhm.
someone and I want someone to love me for who I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was that moment. That's where you burst into tears because it was that realization of, oh boy, this is really what I want. And I've said it out loud to the
Yeah.
universe. And I've entrusted another human with this
Yeah.
secret knowledge that I've been holding my whole life.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. I like that. Yeah. That it was, it's like the first time really revealing that part of yourself so truly, that it's like that's what I really want, but I've never allowed anybody to see that I really want to love and be loved like that. Yeah.
Yep. And
Yeah.
that's vitally important to you. It's
Mm.
like for you, the search for love is like you need it as much as breathing. And it's not
Mm.
like you have to seek it out. It's like breathing. It just
Mm.
happens, and it's meant to just happen. And
Yeah.
so there's a part of you that since you're awakening, it's like you're on hyper alert all the time. So,
Yeah.
it's like someone who's gone through intense trauma and, they're constantly triggered by everything going off. Right now, that's where you were, right? The last 3 years
Mm.
is oh,
mm,
does that mean something? What does that mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? Because you
mm,
inundated yourself with all the spiritual teachers, right? And this person
yeah,
and this sign means this, and this experience means this. And so
yeah,
your brain was in overdrive, which is why they were saying step back and let yourself learn through your regular everyday
mm,
experiences. Because when you're on, when you're in that place of what does this mean? What does this mean? We forget that there's a melody that's woven through everything and it's natural. And
mm,
we're going to be on that, we're going to be in that flow no matter what we do.
mm,
But if we choose to react to it, it's going to be like this.
mm, mm,
Whereas if we allow ourselves to see it, then it's like, oh, you can feel the
yeah,
difference in the energy, right? It's like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. And
So
I feel like that's what's kind of been in a good way that like uh it's been like releasing stuff in the sense that like there's periods when I drift from that melody in a way, or but then it's like it's something releasing or whatever, and then it comes back, and then it's like, oh yeah, of course, everything's just kind of unfolding on its
yes.
own until until something pops up where like these things where it's like, okay, yeah, everything was smooth, but you hadn't seen this dynamic yet. So like, what about when you really have strong feelings for someone, and it's like, oh my gosh, I thought I trusted the melody completely, but it's like now there's all these parts of myself that got revealed or something like that, where there was still fear.
Because they were supposed to. And
Yeah.
the reality is, here's the thing, and that a lot of people do is then they'll stop trusting themselves,
Mm.
right? Oh, maybe I was wrong. She wasn't wrong. She was
Yeah.
exactly what you needed
Yeah. Yeah.
then. She was perfect. Everything you did was beautiful. It was a perfect orchestra between the two of you.
Yeah.
Everything was beautiful. It didn't have the result your mind
Yeah.
expected, right? That's that sneaky little expectations, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it had the result that was meant for both of you, right? You
Yeah.
both needed to see how strong you are and you needed
Mm,
to see what you were capable of, particularly as it relates to vulnerability,
mm,
because
mm,
both of you had issues around wanting to keep yourself protected, keep yourself safe, right? And
mm,
so you were both learning how to be vulnerable in the space of the most intimate things you can give another human, whether it's
yeah.
your heart, your mind, your deepest parts of, your biggest secrets, your biggest goals, right? You're sharing
Yeah.
those things, and then you're sharing your body, right? And
Yeah.
and we forget that once you begin this spiritual journey, your body is no longer the same. The way you look at your body and the way you feel with your body is completely different. It's, there's no like, let me, before you have awareness, it's like, it's like a Sex in the City kind of thing, right? It's just, let's do these physical things to get these physical results, period.
Mm,
Right? What is
mm,
my body capable of? Oh, that feels so good physically. And then
mm,
you go to this place of deeper awareness in yourself. And now you're having those experiences, but they're touching energetic points
mm, mm,
and
mm,
they're releasing hidden information in both of your
mm,
energies. And
mm,
what's happening is you're, so again, that symphony is still going, but now it's going deeper. And
mm,
what, so with you guys in particular, what happened is it was very intense, very quickly. So
yeah.
the how do I it's not an illusion because it was beautiful, but it was like this you came together and then the energies like twining around each other and it went straight up. So it was like, oh, this has got to be it. This is it. Like,
Mm,
wow.
mm,
And your heart kind of feels like the emotional heart then explodes. And it's like, oh my gosh,
mm,
this is it, right? And there's a feeling of relief that comes through the emotions of, oh, I found it.
mm,
And
mm,
then you have
yeah,
challenges in
yeah,
deciphering how this is going to look on the physical side, right?
Yeah.
You're having conversations about life and you're
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
conversations about day-to-day life, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, hold on a minute. We're
Yeah.
not on the
Yeah.
same page here, or we have different goals, or, and
Yeah. Mm,
this is where we forget the power of intimacy. And, the greatest intimate experience we can have with another human being is bearing our soul to them.
yeah.
And what happens is we live in a culture where sex is normal. It's, having it, and it's it's not sacred anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, it's recognition that the deepest, most intimate parts are the awareness of yourself and each other. And
Mm,
that's the goal that we should be
mm,
looking for. And because
mm.
it will bring you the right person,
Mm.
right? When
And,
our goals
yeah.
are, this is how many children, and this is where we want to live, and this is what we want to do with
Mm,
our lives, those are not the goals that bring the right people together. I know that
mm,
sounds ridiculous because
mm.
it's
No,
like we
I
want,
feel that.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
It-
recognition that it's how we hold space for the other person, and it's
mm,
allowing the other person to grow. I mean, honestly, I think long distance relationships at the beginning, like you guys were having, right? Where you are forced to communicate
yeah.
before anything else, right? Like you're forced
Yeah.
to because that's what you've
Yeah.
got. But
Yeah.
that's where you have that opportunity to experience the depth, right?
Yeah.
But what they're also showing is um, it's interesting because the angelics are here and they're the first stream angelics. So, and they're showing me um, in moments of physical intimacy, you're you're looking for things that are not pertaining to holding space for that soul, if that
Mm,
makes sense, right? You go to that place where, how can I please you? How can I make you feel good without
mm,
recognition of what's the awareness of myself, and like, how can I hold space for you to have
mm,
awareness of yourself, which is a different
mm.
goal when you're in intimate relationship. Does that make sense?
That does. Yeah. That does make sense. Yeah.
Because then when you hold that space um when you're having sex, when there's any kind of intimacy, even kissing, it's
Yeah.
recognition that then it's like the way I'm hearing it, it's like the angels are singing. It's like um that's when the culmination of connection is at its peak. When you're holding
Mm,
space, you have a recognition of self, right? So that means I understand who I am, what I'm doing, and I
mm,
understand that my actions are going to participate in a very particular energetic experience. And then it's,
mm,
how am I holding space for the other person to have that energetic experience?
mm.
Okay.
Yeah. And I feel it makes a lot of sense. Like it was like I needed to have a kind of opening up to this side of relationship again, like my first time having these kind of really the sexual intimacy with somebody else. Just because it was almost like all the awakening stuff had happened, but it was like I had nothing on the other side of like relationship and connecting with another human being. So now it was like, yeah, to see all these things where it's like, okay, maybe this is how I would have engaged in sex with another human being in focusing, so letting all of that kind of come to the surface
Yes.
and release.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Because you're ready for this level now of intimacy.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
ready to go all the way. And you had to see what it was like to have the awareness, but not hold it through the
Mm,
intimacy aspects. And now they're saying, see how that felt? It was
mm,
fine. It was fine,
mm,
but
mm.
it's not enough. It's not enough for
Yeah.
where you're going and what you want
Yeah.
to fulfill
Yeah.
yourself, right? And now you
Yeah.
look back and you're like, there is more. I can feel that now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, this was the challenge. like for me was it in one sense it felt like the most energetic kind of thing that I'd ever experienced with somebody else. So that was one thing I think that was keeping me really pulled into it as well, was like I've never felt this way about somebody before. I've never felt this, because also to go back to what you were saying earlier, where it was felt much more about an energetic soul connection than just kind of physical intimacy. And I think that, yeah, but realizing that there was still like this was the first time kind of experiencing things in this way, there was still something that I could feel. Yeah, it wasn't kind of, it wasn't all the way into the energetics, or yeah, like you said at the end there. Yeah,
Yeah. And you're going to feel a deeper connection because you have a deeper awareness, right?
yeah,
Like that's
yeah,
that's a reflection of you.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's the part that we forget sometimes is where's the other person at? Are they
yeah,
feeling this depth as well? And where
yeah,
is it and how? So this is why the communication aspect is so great. It's, how are
yeah,
you feeling? Like, but being able
yeah,
to ask in the moments when you're feeling
mm,
something,
mm,
but then it's you first feeling into, okay, where's the feeling coming from? What is it that I'm actually
mm,
feeling?
mm,
Am I feeling my relationship with this person's soul?
mm,
Or, like
mm,
it's it's walking that line of
yeah,
understanding,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
And I feel like that's what was kind of being revealed to me
oh
in
yeah,
this. With like I didn't even realize all these things that we're talking about now that are obvious now on this side of it, but that it was like, yeah, for me it was just like wanting to open up into each other, but maybe that it kind of to go back to what you said at the beginning, like the other person could feel that, and it's like that what she wanted maybe at that time to kind of go like into that depth where it felt like, yeah, we this is kind of meant to be. There's such a deep connection here, but it's like
yeah,
maybe that wasn't enough awareness from my side of, yeah, that's more kind of coming from the mind than it's what's right for both of us. But I needed to, that's what I learned so much from her was boundaries, and that's what I needed. I was so willing to kind of pour myself into this, but then it was like, seeing that there's boundaries, and I couldn't see that on my own. And she was the one putting them in place. And then
yeah,
it was like, yeah, you're right. And I wasn't going to see that. So the communication was, I think it was very good. Like that was one of the things as well. If I look back at this whole relationship, it was like there was, well, way better than communication than I've ever had in a relationship before. Yeah.
yes. And
Yeah.
and here's the thing, you're looking for someone who's not interested in setting boundaries, right? Because
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That
right,
was that
like
was what felt so challenging.
yes. And
Yeah,
the
yeah,
reality is you're looking for someone who's ready to tear them down.
yeah,
Whatever boundaries they
yeah,
find, they're like,
yeah,
whoop, don't want that there. Let's
yeah,
look at this. And she's not there. And that's okay. She's
yeah,
exactly
yeah,
where she needs to be. But you
yeah,
introduced her to that world
yeah,
of, you know, being willing. You gave her a safe place to go, oh, it is okay to reveal yourself. It is okay to trust
mm,
someone else. And, she's just in a different place. And she does want to explore a little bit more. The other thing is I am like they're showing me 5 years and something's going to happen in 3 years, like in the sense of over the next 3 years, you're going to learn a lot about yourself. So doesn't mean don't date. It means
yeah,
explore whatever feels right, but make sure
yeah,
you're honoring that highest vibrational energy, right? You're going to that place every time. It doesn't matter whether it's in romantic, whether it's in your work, whether it's your family, you know, it doesn't matter. But the it's like the angels will sing. That's how I always so for me when two beings come together and they're of the highest vibration, literally I can hear the song of angels singing. That's why. And so they're saying that's going to happen for you in about 5 years. You may meet the person in three, but it's going to take 2 years for the pieces to come together. And it's recognition that you're both currently in a state of preparing for each other.
mm,
Remember
okay,
that, okay? Because it's not like you're out there searching for her.
mm,
You're living and you're doing the work you need to do on you to prepare
mm,
yourself for the immense and the immaculate love that she's going to offer you,
mm,
because you need to be willing and ready to offer that immaculate love back.
mm.
And that's
Yeah.
what she's
Yeah.
learning how to prepare to receive.
Mm. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, and your love is going to be like great love, because that's what you're meant to experience. And that will
Yeah.
be a huge part of your your journey in the sense of what you're meant to be sharing and how you're meant to be sharing it. And it's ultimately why, that the trigger for your awakening came through a love relationship,
Mm, mm,
a
mm,
romantic style love. And so your journey over the next three to 5 years, really, and they're showing you right into seven. It's a cycle. You're learning how to surrender to the greatest love of all time. So, and what they
mm,
mean by all time is how love was meant to be experienced
mm,
as the creation of a soul. So it's
mm, mm,
fundamentally different than any aspect of
mm,
creation
mm,
now, or understanding of this physical world. Like
mm.
it's
Yeah.
polar
Yeah.
opposites, right? And
Yeah.
so you're you're on a journey. It's like they're showing me like
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes with the little spy glasses, my son would call them. And you're out there and it's like you're looking for any clue that has anything to do with love. And
Yeah.
all the ideals and ideas of how we connect with other humans under that
Yeah.
guise of love, you're going to break
Yeah.
down all those illusions over the
Yeah.
next 7 years. And part will be with her and part will be before, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll come
Yeah.
together and you're like, oh, there's more for us to do. There's more for us to see. And um,
Yeah.
it's cool because when I see you together and in 9 years, it's like you're free of all physical limitations.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
two of you standing side by
Yeah.
side, and you're not standing on ground. You're existing in the universe on that vibrational plane in connection with each other, but you're not touching, which is really significant. And they want me to point that out
Mm,
is
mm,
your the deepest connection possible isn't going to be through touch. It's going to be through
mm,
vibration.
mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, it's beautiful because neither of you are limited by anything. I mean, you both, yeah, her hair is super long. You're not, neither of you are wearing clothing, but your vibration is pure soul. So it's like a
Yeah.
buttery yellow. That's how, and you're surrounded as one. So, it's beautiful.
It's really, I really appreciate just hearing like how much of a part of that of my journey that is, because it's like that's been a bit of a tension for me over the last year, was like, you know, this search for love. Like, is it something that's like that I shouldn't be so focused on, or is it like something that's because a lot of the teachings that have helped me in the past was a lot about kind of, letting go of, yeah, like
Desire, physical
desire,
desire. Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
But it's incredible for me. Like I everything you said, just it was a lot of like confirmation, and making a lot of sense for things that I've been feeling recently. Whereas I just I when I watch a movie or I read something, I just have this real, when there's a moment of true expression of it will be crazy. Like I think my soul recognizes or something. Like they'll just see the way one character relates to another character, and I just get this intense emotional feeling where it's like, wow, that's love, and it's like, I don't know, there's just something that it triggers in me, and I
Yes.
I just keep feeling that more and more. So it makes so much sense what you said about like this kind of the search for like the truest form of love. It feels so authentic actually to what is
Yep.
important to me. Yeah.
And what I love they're showing me is you will get away from even saying it as love. It'll be the deep connection because
Mm,
it you won't be able to explain it to anybody else if you keep
Yeah,
using the word love, because then they will carry their illusions into it,
yeah, yeah,
which is great. So it's literally a deep dive into how humans and this is cool how they're so, I mean, we have a lot of controversy all over the world with all different aspects of how humans come together in relationship. And
yeah.
so what what they're showing me is you're you're going to be participating in restoring. It's not even divine love. It's like, because divine, again, it gets caught up in the drama of the spiritual world, right? As soon as you put that
Yeah,
word
yeah,
divine
yeah.
in, then whoosh. And so it's recognition of the vibration of love that flows through our veins. We forget that it's encoded in our
Mm,
DNA. We forget that, the vibration of love is an energy first, right? That brings
mm,
emotions to the surface, but it's the energy that's
mm.
talking. And we need to learn how to talk to the energy rather than talk through the emotions.
Right.
And so that's a significant part of not only your journey, but s- as humans, right? That's
Mm.
how we're meant to. So it's different. It's really cool because if you look at other mammals, right, they know how to hold space for each other. Every wild animal on the planet, right, they're not there just to procreate. This is really important. They're there to hold space for the way that they're naturally meant to exist. So if you start to study wild animals in partnership, you're going to see some hold space together, some hold space apart, because that's naturally who they are. And what they're showing me is humans, we we're so messed up in our understanding of what it actually means to, and it's interesting because our last conversation was about holding space for
Yeah,
other
yeah,
people. This is fascinating. So it's recognition that those two go hand in hand, right? Holding space,
yeah.
because holding
Mm,
space has zero expectations, zero.
mm, mm,
And yet the
mm.
human perspective of love is 50 million expectations of every aspect,
Right,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's going to be intense, and every
yeah,
experience you have around it is going to be
yeah,
intense, whether you're helping friends or family through the
yeah,
dynamics, because you're still going to be seeing it, you're going to be living it, you're going to be inside of the intimacy of other people's relationships, and
yeah,
it's about you getting comfortable in that place, being able to sit in it and not have emotional reactions, but also not thinking, because in the thinking we go into judgment, we go into strategizing. How can I help them get out of this? You've got to be
mm,
in it and feel the energy, and then you'll
yeah.
see the messages to get through it, which is
Do you
gonna.
have any advice for like how to focus on that more? Because
Yeah.
yeah, like in engaging with somebody, I can feel like, so even just like these conversations that I have with people nowadays, I can feel like they're being pulled to ask me something because they can feel maybe that, we're meant to engage or something like that. And then, yeah, I can feel there's different aspects of the experience, where I can feel like I'm holding back saying certain things, but it feels right as well because like there's some perspectives that just won't make sense to them in that moment. But
Okay. So don't let your
yeah,
mind determine your conversations. Okay.
okay,
So when you're talking, I'm listening with 30% of with my ears. The rest, I'm feeling your energy with 70%.
yeah, okay,
Maybe 80%. Sometimes I'll stop listening entirely because the energy gets so big that
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
have to listen to the energy because they're showing me where you are and what you need to hear,
okay,
right? That's
yeah,
how we're meant to communicate as humans. We're not meant
yeah,
to
yeah,
listen to people's like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
stuff, right? That's
and
why when
yeah,
people talk about going to therapy and they had to talk all this stuff through with their therapist, and I'm like, no, no,
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
waste of time, right?
yeah,
Where
yeah,
if your soul needs you to go back over something, because you had the wrong perspective, your soul's going to share it. Your soul's going to share what happened and why you needed to see something. You don't need to keep reliving it. The problem is you'll keep
mm,
reliving it until you actually see it from the right perspective. But if you don't
mm,
have that ability to pull yourself out to see it from the right perspective, you're going to continuously see it from the trauma perspective,
mm,
which is why PTSD is actually a thing, right?
mm, mm, mm,
PTSD wouldn't even exist if you were able to pull yourself back far enough to go, oh, that's what that was. That was what was really going on,
mm, mm,
right? That's
mm.
why
Yeah,
I worked with veterans, and literally I've had them, one gentleman was in therapy with all different kinds for 7 years. And he's like, in 45 minutes, you did for me what 7 years couldn't do. But
yeah, yeah.
it's not that I did it. I mean, I did it, but it's that his soul showed
Yeah,
me what I
yeah,
went through. And I said, okay, so this happened. And he said nothing. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, are you okay? Because he was crying. He was in
yeah.
tears. He couldn't talk. And I said, okay. He's like, that's exactly what happened. And I'm giving him all the details of the scenario and the situation. But the thing is the healing occurred because he was able to see the right perspective. Okay. And
Mm,
so that's the journey you're going on as it relates to love.
mm,
You can
okay,
see
okay.
how you're climbing the biggest mountain in existence, Kyle. Way to go.
I know, I
Yeah.
know. Like,
You don't go small. I'm going to choose the one that's challenging humanity the most in all the drama. I mean, look at we got Valentine's Day for crying out loud, right? Like there's a day for love.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
so I mean everything from marriage and you know
yeah.
like I was taken through a sacred union ceremony and this was with someone else and it was we were put in connection. But here's the thing. I mean, at one point I was like, "Oh, this is awesome. I'm going to offer this as a, you know, offering on my website."
Mm, mm,
Holy mackerel. Okay? If you are not fully aware, you're going to get pummeled because
mm,
what happens in a sacred union is your soul energies are entwined. And everything that person thinks, feels, says, does is going to feel multiplied by a million. If they're
right.
angry and they take it out and they don't know how to deal with their anger, you're going to get pummeled.
Okay.
Vice versa. If you're angry, you're going to pummel the
Yeah.
other person. And this was, within 5 months, I had to remove it because it was just wasn't even I don't even think it lasted 5 months. I was like, no, I can't
Yeah.
because it was making me sick and I was pregnant at the time. So, but the thing is that's how powerful universal energy is. That's how powerful the connection between humans was
Mm,
always meant to be. If you're in
mm,
full conscious awareness, then you're not going to cause harm. And it's not like
mm,
people are
mm,
walking
mm,
around thinking they're causing harm. It's that
mm,
the
mm,
beliefs that we're carrying are naturally
mm.
causing harm without
Yeah.
our awareness of the fact. So we're literally
Yeah.
doing things, right? I mean, think
Yeah.
about all the things that happened to us as a result of our parents and our childhood, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
were our parents trying to? No, they were doing
Yeah.
the best they possibly could,
Yeah.
right? So it there's no it's there's no one to blame. And that's the thing
Yeah.
is we got to get
Yeah.
out from underneath, right? And you're not in that, which is great and which is why, right? But it's also recognition that you're on this mission to restore the true essence of love, you know,
Mm, mm.
as it as it stands in relationship, which is great. But that
Yeah.
also means you're restoring it in yourself first because you cannot
Yeah.
offer something to someone else that you haven't
Yeah.
fully restored in yourself. And that's really what the foundational and the beginning part of your journey was. And now you're
Yeah.
integrating the aspects of, whoa, now I got to
Mm,
share and learn love with other
mm.
humans. Oh, okay, this
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah.
It's fun
But
until it's blah.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. But it's exciting to know that I suppose, yeah, you said it really nicely there because it was like the past 2 years was around finding that love in myself and restoring it. And really, that's what kind of healed all of the stuff that I needed to work through. But then it was like, that's not where it ends, and recognizing that more and more that, yeah. And it's also really helpful because it's something like in this last kind of 2 weeks was a really intense period because I think it was kind of really forcing me to let go more and more of this specific attachment. And even us having this conversation today has been really helpful because there was still this confusion where it was like, is this something I need to put more energy into because I feel so much around it? Or, there was a part of me as well that's like, maybe it was just something but there was a part of me that didn't want to
Yes.
acknowledge that,
You want to be both sides of the fence, right? It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
which side
yeah,
do I need to be on? Do I need to be on the side where I'm all in still and I know that I might get hurt and I still
yeah,
need to
yeah,
stay vulnerable? Or do I
yeah,
need to be on the
exactly.
side of recognizing that this wasn't? But what if it is? And I don't want to miss
Yeah,
out and I don't want to, break this opportunity if this is the one, right? Like
yeah,
all of those
yeah,
questions go through. But the
yeah,
other thing that they wanted to just, you know, this is your journey for the rest of your life. So you're learning to
yeah.
love yourself and another. It's going to continue to evolve on both sides. It will never end. So it's not like you're fully
Mm,
evolved into loving yourself. It's
mm, mm,
now, right? Like, and
yeah.
through your work, through your romantic partners, through your family, through your friends, you're going to learn more about all the aspects of love.
Mm, mm,
And it's going to be your lifelong journey. So it's not ever going to end. There's so many
mm,
nuances and dynamics that, even humanity doesn't know about yet because it's been hidden for so long. And those are the
mm,
things you're going to go. That's your exploration. You're going to go uncover them and, you know,
yeah.
not not because your mind is like, I got to uncover them. It's because you're, oh, look at that.
Mm,
Something else is coming up. Okay, perfect. Let's do this. Let's
mm,
do that. But it will, for you, it's always going to come back to love, which is divine connection, right?
mm. Yeah. And it's helpful because there was like a real like it's kind of like some of Matt said at the start of his conversation with you as well, which I felt so strongly. It's like, okay, but what am I actually doing here now? It's like a lot has shifted like with so much awakening happening, but it was like, yeah, a lot of feeling like, what now? And it's nice to have that confirmation that it's comes back to love, because that's if I feel into like what feels the most, like it lights me up, or that's really what kind of feels important or true to me, it does come back to love. So
Love
yeah,
that.
it's yeah, like I explore astrology a lot, and it comes back a lot with my astrology as well, like kind of pointing to that
Yes.
aspect. Yeah.
They're saying you're going to want to study natural animals for the next few
Naturally.
years. Look at their um, look at their mating seasons. In particular, they're using their mating seasons, very specific. And they're also saying looking at um, how they come together, how they travel together, and how they come together. So, um, and remembering that love isn't always between a male and female. It's, sometimes it's a brothership, and sometimes it's, like
Mm,
the,
mm,
like, with elephants, for example, they're showing me, how the
mm,
the men, and a lot of wild animals, right? I mean, my son knows
mm,
way more about them than I do. But it's, you know, I keep seeing like cheetahs and, there's solitary aspects and there's group aspects. And yes, it is partnership and connection, but it's recognition that love is through every relationship and experience we have. And your
yeah.
job is to learn like that. There's like a golden thread that love just
Mm,
winds all things together.
mm,
And that's, you're unraveling that. It's like, where does
mm.
that go? And you're going to keep
Yeah,
following
yeah,
that thread through life and existence until you get to that place where it's like, oh, oh, that's it.
yeah, yeah,
That's the meaning of love, so to speak. And yet you'll have all the awareness, which, yeah, it's not that simple, right? It's not just one little
mm,
meaning that's a paragraph long. It's a
mm,
lifetime.
mm. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
the history of existence.
yeah. Yeah, that's really that feels. I love what you said about the golden thread because that's how if I could put into words kind of what I was saying earlier, where I just have this kind of this recognition of love, like real authentic. It feels like oh, like that's a reflection of it there, or that's an aspect of it there. Like and across all these different relationships, it's like just love in whatever sense. But yeah, it's like this golden thread, and it's really cool about the animals because like a nice synchronicity is after my travels Europe, I'm going to back to South Africa, and we've got this like trip planned in this awesome game reserve for like a few weeks. So it's like, okay, great, I can.
Oh, okay. I want to come. My son is dying to go on safari. He's
Yeah, yeah,
just like, that is yeah, he loves, his biggest thing is like crocodiles, and he
yeah,
wanted
yeah,
to
yeah.
be, yeah, yeah. So that, one of these days we'll have to come visit you.
Yeah, you got it. Like there's this park in South Africa, Kruger National Park. It's like it's incredible because it's so massive that it's a real space, like natural space for animals, where it's like, and this is
It's like
just a
home.
yeah, exactly. And I haven't been there for so long. Again, like since all of these shifts have happened in me, like I used to go there when I was younger. So it's going to be an incredible experience to feel into like all the aspects of it now. Yeah.
I love that. I haven't been anywhere where animals are in when I use the word captivity since
Mm,
I started my journey 20 years ago, even though it's in it like that's completely different. But when I was a kid, we used to go to the zoo in Toronto
yeah.
often, and it would be hilarious because I would go and I remember I'd walk up to the like the lions, the big cats were always my favorite. And I'd go up to
Yeah.
the lion enclosure and all the lions would be sleeping. And I would just be like, I don't know what, I would say something and they would all wake up and they'd come and they'd just stare right at me. And there was this one man, and this would happen every time. There was this man
Yeah.
one time, he was standing beside me with one of those like really nice cameras with the like telephoto lens, and
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
looked over, and I was in my teens, and he's like, "Who are you?" I was like, "I just said hi to them, right?" But when you feel their vibration, their energy,
Yeah.
I mean, I've
Yeah.
been doing it my whole life, and I didn't know I was doing it until, I was
Yeah.
about 29, and I went, "Oh, this is what's going on." So,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, right, 20 years later, I'm like, "Okay." But yeah, I love that you're already going to explore animals. So that's there. And they are showing me
Yeah.
birds. They keep showing me birds over and over and over again. And
Okay.
there's bigger birds. And anyways, notice the birds because the birds
Okay.
are going to speak the greatest for you right now, particularly in how um, it's like mating dances. And men, the males are very vibrant in the way that they attract, but it's very specific and it's very purposeful, and their energy is very clean about it, right? They don't have the
Mm,
expectation. They have the I'm going to try it and I'm going to see and I'm going to give it
mm,
my absolute best.
mm.
And, if it doesn't, it's not like humans where if it doesn't work, they're crushed
Yeah.
and then they become stalkerish or whatever, right? Then if it doesn't work, they're
Yeah.
like, okay, she's not the one for me. Moving on to the next,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
it's there's no emotional reactions, which
Yeah.
is what messes with humanity, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
part that's why we can't remember who we are because our emotions, we've been
Mm,
taught to see
mm,
everything through this blech of emotions. It's like
mm, mm.
it's a fog, oh, anyways. But that's all it is. And once you can
Yeah.
see beyond them, you're golden.
Yeah. That's a really interesting point. I love that about the birds because if you they are so like willing to put themselves forward, but
Oh
it's so
yeah. They're all in.
yeah, yeah, it's crazy actually. Now you think about it, I've seen so many of like I used to love animal shows when I was younger, and like the craziest like dances and things the birds will do to attract each other, and it's like you said, it's also like there's no reflection in the mind of like, oh, this is what happened, and now I made a fool of myself, and it's like there's nothing to defend, right? It's just what's
Right?
genuine. Yeah,
Exactly. It's crazy, right? How we get so
Yeah,
caught up in the emotional and then we're like, oh, now I'm hurt. Now I have to protect myself. I can't do that again. Where'd that story
yeah,
come from? Because
yeah, exactly.
that's not the story we're naturally meant to live out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it
Awesome.
looks like our internet connection is getting a little testy
Is
on
it?
us.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, okay. Well, that's probably I I'm hoping that you you got what you needed today, and I thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Thank you so much. Like for it was I needed. I felt like I needed. It goes back to what you said earlier, like perspective. You know, I just needed to understand the perspective of what was happening, and but there were so many different perspectives, and it was like, okay, but which one's the true one in a sense?
And it's
Um,
tricky, right? Because our that's
yeah,
it. That's the whole journey. You right there. You just
yeah,
absolutely put the whole journey to consciousness in
yeah,
a little package with a bow on top. That's exactly what it
yeah,
is. There's always so many
yeah.
different directions we can go, which is the right one. And we can't see it when we're stuck in the emotions. And we're stuck in them because we're meant to see those right in that moment. So it's
Mm, mm,
celebrating, it's not getting frustrated, it's not, right? It's being
mm,
able to pull back enough and find your person that you can go to and talk it through. And, you know,
mm.
I mean, I have my greatest awareness just by someone holding space and just me, blah, right? It sounds like verbal
Yeah,
diarrhea. It's like, blah, 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 blah,
yeah,
and then there's
yeah,
this and there's this and there's this. And then you're like, I got it all out. Oh, that's
yeah,
what it is. Now I can see
yeah,
it, right?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Like I feel so often these emotions and energies, whatever, they just need a space to like be
It has to
held.
come
And
out.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Because
but
otherwise, you got it
it,
inside and
yeah,
it's building up, and all you're doing is holding that energy in, right? That's not
yeah,
how humans were meant to experience
yeah,
life, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And for me, it's something I've felt like the difference between when somebody is actually just willing to allow all of that to come out, or I've had it like I felt it, and it's for me it was like one of the worst feelings is like when you're trying to like and someone just won't like allow you to because it's obviously making them feel something they don't want to feel. But it's like if someone offers that space, it's like the greatest gift. I think going back to like our last conversation about holding space for other
Yeah.
people, because
And
yeah,
it's also
but,
recognition that it's like it goes two ways, right? When you hold space for someone else, you don't want someone who's going to come in and abuse that space, right? Because I have a lot of people who they're like, "Oh, you hold space," and then they start sharing, and then they blah, 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 right? And
mm,
there's a difference between abusing it
mm,
and holding it in respect, right? It goes both
mm,
ways. So,
yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah,
Thank you. Thank
yeah,
you for sharing. Thank you for coming back and being so
yeah,
vulnerable and being willing to, give us a an inside
yeah,
view because I know there's so many people
yeah,
going through this, Kyle, and you know, thank you. And I'm a really, really excited to see what your journey offers humanity because boy, oh boy, do we ever
yeah,
need some clarity on love. And if that's your
yeah,
next, 80, 90, 100 years of exploring in the world of love, the things you're
yeah,
going to accomplish are incredible and magnificent. And
yeah,
I can't wait to see what humanity is going to benefit from you. So
yeah,
thank
yeah.
you.
Well, I'll definitely keep in touch, and
Yes.
yeah, we can. Last, I don't know if there's time for this, let me know.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to like, I love what you did before, where you were able to give me some like energetic.
Oh.
I don't know if you can pick anything up energetically that could be helpful because I have had a lot going on. I guess, yeah. So
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely. So, we're going into the reproductive organs, and it's a lot, right? This is the comfort level with yourself, and it's
yeah,
restoring that level of faith because what happens when because of the trauma from childhood, right? And that is someone going to love me for who I am. When you open up a little bit, right? You come to that place
yeah,
where it's it's interesting. It's you attach strings almost to ideals and um
mm,
like, how do I, not just ideals, but like future visions that you're holding, and you tie yourself to those. And so
mm,
then what happens is other people need to fit into those. And
mm,
and when
mm,
they don't, that's when you feel let down. And so what they're
mm,
gonna what they want to do is cut them, but it's restoring balance to the system that says you don't need to create those anymore. Now
right.
it's about exploring in technicolor, which basically means with freedom to have the results be whatever they're going to be, not need them to
Mm,
be, okay, well, we're
mm,
going to be together forever, and this is how what forever is going to look like, and this is, it's they're saying have the adventure. Be willing
mm,
to have the adventure and be the rule breaker, the one who, has the relationship that doesn't look like anybody else's relationship because it's
mm,
in divine connection with that other human, and you're both playing out, it's like future role models of what love is meant to be. So
mm,
your job is to
mm.
explore
Yeah, yeah.
that, not continuously bring both of you back to, oh, let's pin
Mm,
this down and like hammer this
mm,
nail in,
mm.
and then
Yeah.
you're like your both of your clothes are like hammered under the nail so you can't move forward, right? It's
Mm.
yeah, so we're gonna just, if you want to rid those, we'll get rid of
Yeah,
those.
I'd love
And
to.
for anyone who's watching, I'm just gonna hold that space as well so that anyone who feels that they have any attachments to how romantic relationships need to be, um, you can just, yeah, so they're going. And it's cool because you feel it, it's coming down, right?
Mm, mm,
It's
mm,
connected to the reproductive organs, but for it's coming all the way. Like it's like um
mm,
so when I studied when I did yoga teacher training and we studied the nadis, which are the like they're energetic lines that run through the body. So there's millions of them, but they're showing me that's what's pulling through, and they're just realigning them. Yeah, you can feel it. It's all these lies are sliding down, and
mm,
they're going to be leaving.
mm.
Yeah. So there's going to be some stomach upsets over the next few days because there's going to be purging. Um,
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's going to be vomiting. It will come out the other way, which may be a little uncomfortable, but not as uncomfortable. But nothing to be startled about. It is literally a purging of the fear of being in connection with universal love in this lifetime because that's massive,
Mm.
massive. Okay, so you're purging that fear so that they're showing me so you can get on with your mission already. I love it when they make it so simple, right? It's just, this is what it is.
Right, right.
Go on.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, yeah. And it's almost like a golden egg is being laid, so to speak. Um, and it's like um, it's in your pelvic region, which is it's recognition that like it's like the golden egg, like the size of like a goose egg kind of thing. But what it's representing, what it's signifying is the birth of a new Kyle. So as you go through this rebirth, it's recognizing that it's going to come through you first, right? Like it's going to come through you. This is they're showing me this is what most people don't understand about the rebirth process is we don't rebirth out of something, right? We birth
Mm.
it through us. And right, most people are like, "Oh, the rebirth, I'm going to come down through the birth canal again." No, that's
Right,
not what
right, right.
rebirth is. Rebirth is you birthing a new aspect of yourself into the world. And
Mm,
that's what you're doing right now. You're literally bringing it's like you're revealing new parts of you, a new part of you, a higher level, a higher conscious and awareness of who you are in all of your relationships, in all of your experiences. And that's really what the last few weeks have been about, is you had to come to that place where you were surrendered to awakening
mm,
to this new aspect. And that's where
mm,
that dark night of the soul, that um right? It's recognition that you can't be tethered to
mm.
the emotional drama of
Yeah,
and the dynamics of relationship anymore, right?
yeah,
That is that person going to call? Are they not going to call? How do they feel?
yeah,
That drama, right? You're done. You're
yeah.
so done and you're so over it. And the reality is now you're in this recognition that when it's meant to be, the person will want to hold you in that space of making sure you know how they feel at all times
Mm,
in deep recognition and respect of who you are. They'll want to offer it. They won't hold back
yeah,
what they're feeling
yeah.
for fear of being hurt. They will want, your welfare will be a bigger priority to their
Mm,
mental state of being, right? They'll
mm,
want to make
mm,
sure. And that's what you're learning how to do. You're learning how to want to do the same thing for someone else,
mm.
but also holding that space for them to do that for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
It's
good. Yeah.
big. It's big.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny. I feel like, yeah, I was feeling it from my side, like,
Yep.
oh, I really want to do this for somebody else, and that felt so great to want to offer that to somebody else. But it was, yeah, also seeing that I really wanted that, like, that's an important part of it as well. Was good for it to be reciprocated. Yeah.
100%, because it doesn't feel very good when it's not reciprocated. Boom.
That's what I had to feel. I was just like, okay, it's
Oh,
really nice to love someone, but it's fucking horrible if it doesn't come back.
right? And that's the funny thing. And we have these experiences. And then what happens is if the mind is deciding, then it's like, oh, this person's horrible and blah, 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 blah. And it's like,
Yeah,
no, no, you asked
yeah,
for this. So
yeah, yeah,
your
yeah,
job
exactly.
is to get better at asking for what you want. That's
Mm,
exactly what it is, right?
yeah,
So now
yeah,
it's like, okay, so I want someone who's going to do that for me as
mm,
well. So that
yeah,
means then you're going to go through all the challenges that are going to
mm,
break down all the beliefs in you that don't allow that to occur right now. Because if it was meant to occur, it would have occurred already. So clearly
mm,
that's not
yeah,
in your space and you need to make space for it. It's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, because it is. It's like you don't know what you want. Because that's exactly what it was. It was like there was a period where I wasn't even wanting like relationship, and then I did want it, and then I attracted a certain kind of one, and then it was like, oh, okay, now you want this, now you want that. Yeah, so it's like you don't even know what you want. Yeah, until
Hence
you
why
do.
it's going
Yeah,
to take about 3 to 5 years to find her, right?
yeah,
3 years. And then
yeah,
I feel like you're going to know her, but you won't be in a romantic relationship. You'll be growing sort of
yeah,
in your own journeys, and then you'll come together because of the timing will be right.
yeah,
Yeah. And it's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, yeah, that's good.
Perfect.
Good to know.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you
Yeah.
so, so much. I always enjoy our conversations, Kyle.
Yeah.
Keep in touch. Let me know how you're doing.
Will do.
And
Yeah.
thank you. And thank you
Yeah.
for
Thank you.
putting me together with Matt. That was fantastic. It was such a great
Yeah.
conversation. I really had a
I,
lot of fun.
I was so excited, like, because, yeah, I'd spoken a bit with Matt and he was like, yeah, he's traveling this and that. And then he told me that it happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to hear this because it's like, yeah, it was like two people that I was just like, I just can't wait to see what comes out of a conversation, like, between the two of
S-
you. And,
So much fun. So
yeah.
much fun. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
thank you. I will see you
thank you.
soon.
Thank you, as always, Michelle. Right.
Thanks. Bye, Kyle. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to learn more, head on over to michellevickers.com. Join our mailing list to receive new episodes right to your inbox or apply to be a guest on the show. If this episode made you think of someone while you were listening, forward the link onto that person with a little note about why it made you think of them, because the greatest gift you can give another human is to see the beauty and purity of who they truly are. Until next time, stay curious.